It's a riveting true crime story, almost lost to time, but now brought back to life in a new 4-part drama series. Ruth Ellis was a nightclub manager in 1950s Britain when she was convicted of shooting and killing an abusive boyfriend. As part of her sentence, she became the last woman to receive the death penalty in the UK. Actor Lucy Boynton stars as Ellis in A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis Story. And in the clip you're about to see, Ellis confronts her lawyer about efforts to try to save her from being executed.
Is it true that you have all been campaigning for me? I told you, no begging, no pleading.
You've seen what they've written about you.
I don't care what they write. I want my sentence to take its course. You will not go to the Home Office. I will not die with this world thinking I am some beaten little fool.
Well, that's it then.
That is justice. An eye for an eye, as I have said from the start.
An eye for an eye.
Lucy Boynton joins us now. Lucy, that's a very intense scene. You're amazing in this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ruth Ellis, instinctively rebellious is how you describe her. Is that what drew you to the character?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wasn't very familiar with her and her story at the time, but the book that this is based on, A Fine Day for a Hanging, was such a great context of 1950s London and kind of the parameters and constraints put on women at that time. So the more I understood that context, the more I realized what a rebellious character Ruth was just by being ambitious.
I understand you know something.
And in doing research about her and about how she changed the judicial system in the UK, what stood out to you when you were learning about this story?
I think it was just really interesting to see the contrast between how she was portrayed in the media and then who, through all the research, I realized she actually was. She didn't have her own voice or channel to the public at the time, so she was very much at the mercy of how the media decided to portray her, which was a very narrow portrayal, so entrenched in misogyny. So it was a real kind of wake-up call to realize how wide that chasm really was, and it's kind of been a good catalyst to challenge the way that people are kind of presented.
So you grew up in London, you still live there.
Yeah.
And prior to this book coming out, you had not heard of the Ruth Ellis story, right?
Yeah.
Is that surprising? And now that you do know about it, what does it mean to no longer make it an anonymous story lost to time?
Sadly, I don't think it is that surprising. I think we are losing out and missing out on so many women's stories that are kind of lost to the history books because they've previously not been seen as significant. But I think this case, as you said, changed our judicial system. It's vital to our history, to our country history, but also I think beyond that, I think it's such an important lesson to challenge how our judicial systems treat women. So hopefully it highlights that we are missing out on crucial stories and challenges us to explore more.
Ruth is such a complicated character, and she, kills a boyfriend of hers who was abusive. You said that of course, the domestic violence scenes that you had to play were so hard, so disturbing, and then you credit your intimacy coordinator for really being a saving grace. Tell us more about that.
Sophie Cooch, our intimacy coordinator, was kind of my savior on this project. She facilitated all of those scenes so that, it was safe on set, but also we got to have really in-depth conversations about the repercussions of doing that as an actor, because I think when it's fiction, you're still deeply affected by filming that, but you can kind of leave the difficulty on set, whereas something like this, the really challenging part was knowing that it is still, it was a true story, so that really rattles you.
Right, you're still thinking someone did experience this.
Yeah.
And so many people do.
And it's still so prevalent today. It is a national crisis. It is an epidemic in the UK, so it's devastating to still kind of sit in how much there is to do.
Well, you're really powerful in this role. You've been acting for a long time, since you were a kid. What's next?
I've got a film called See You When I See You, which is directed by Jay Duplass, which was such an incredible, singular experience. I'm very excited for that.
That's cool. All right, Lucy Boynton, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Lucy.
it. A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis Story, begins streaming Monday on a platform you should know about. It's called BritBox. Check it out.